Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking our time again to participate in this EcoTV series. As usual, I remain your host, Chu Kamonye. With me, I have MD Peter, and of course, um, data manager and lead team, the lead data analyst for Fox Intelligence Limited, Toby. We might be joined in the course of the program by other members of the company. As usual, we also employ you to follow us on our social media platform. We are on Facebook and we are also on LinkedIn, Fox Intelligence, and of course we are on Twitter and Instagram at Fox Intel. So Toby and Peter, just before we dive into what it is we have for today, I mean, we've had a very wonderful 1 week in Nigeria, and every time, most times, we try to do like a recap based on our projections the previous week. I'm coming to Peter now. Peter, in the last 1 week, what will you say based on what you've read about the country, what you've seen from our Echo News, what your feelers tell you from your ground sources? What do you think? What's your overview of the country over the past 1 week?
Well, I mean, just a week, so I don't see anything much has really changed per se. I think things are just going on as usual, basically. That's what I would say. I haven't really like looked at this news because I've been very, very tired of. So, but at least from the little I read, the currency, I think there's a downturn in the currency in the parallel markets, but the CBN market is having it's better and like it's improving. It went down for the rates, so I guess that's a good thing. But then I'm not really too sure about like how it really affects, because if the parallel market is still going up, I think there's a question of like how would we, I think we talked about this last time, how would we get the CBN rates to also pull the parallel market rates down. So that's, I think, one thing that I noted when I was looking at the news like a day or two ago. And then also from the news, I see that there's some little growth in the economy and all that. Well, I mean, it's just same old, basically. That's what I'll say. Same old.
Yeah, Toby, let me come to you. The whole idea of asking these questions most times is that every week in, week out, you're supposed to have this cumulative effect. There's this idea of compound interest or compounding. But I mean, looking at this 1 week and then over the past 4 weeks, I mean, we're just coming to the end of 11th month here. I mean, what will you see? What's your overview of the country?
Well, everything that's or it's, in my opinion, remains the same. Like, we still have not seen anything that has happened to encourage people. During the course of the week, the former CBN governor came out and said the current administration inherited a bad economy, or something like that. We've had, during the same period, we've had former governor Wike, who is the FCT, and what's it called now, come out and said that he said that it is the Nigerians that are happy with President Tinubu and the current situation. And it begs the question of, are these people actually aware or in tune with reality? Because if you, as your high table there, you're saying things like Nigerians are happy with the current administration, and then it's not going to be magic, going to be enough commitments. And the question is, what have you done to show set commitments, right? And so for me, situations remain the same, feelings remain the same, but probably worse now than before.
All right, I think we'll leave it there. I think, Peter, for the main news for the week, I think every attention now is turned towards COP28. So we have this global program organized by United Nations Change Conference, or what we call the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. I think it's the UNFCCC. They have this COP28 program committees of Conference of Parties. And so this one is going to be holding in Dubai from November 30 to I think December 12. And so one of the important news that came out, I think, over the course of last 2 weeks was the United Kingdom, making plans to, propose similar plans like you have with EU, the carbon border tax. And the idea of the carbon border tax is that by 2026, the EU expects that countries, manufacturers or entities bringing in certain products into the EU, if they have carbon footprints, the price at which they paid to offset the carbon footprint must be equivalent to what the price of carbon must be equivalent to the carbon tax, paid on carbon emissions in the EU. And so what that means is that entities that used to offshore investments, in clean development mechanisms in developing countries, to generate offsets for their heavy manufacturing and industrial processes in Europe, will be forced to retain such investments. And that has significant implications for countries like Nigeria, for instance, that has benefited from, massive influx of some of these funds. And, you have the EU come up with theirs, you have the UK planning to come up with hers maybe in 2026. But we don't even seem to have traction, from countries like Nigeria, developing countries and all that. And so the growing concern here, which we will touch perhaps when we do a deep dive, to look at Nigeria's reposition. Basically, what I wanted to just ask you is we keep on having this COP, events year in, year out. It keeps going around the world. My question to you, panelists this evening is, what are your expectations from COP? What do you expect from Nigeria? Do we even need to have a say there? Are we supposed to be participants in an event on climate change when our major income earner is fossil fuel? Our major forex earner, is fossil fuel. Do you think we are supposed to have, any relevant say there? Peter, just in 1 minute.
I'm going to try to keep it short. My opinion about this, which I think is kind of from the little I've studied about this thing on the news and all that stuff, is that, and I think I've told you this before, is that these developed countries built their development on fossil fuels. So basically, they could not be where they are today without fossil. It's impossible that they'll get to where they are without fossil fuel. You understand? So, to now begin to sort of levy these requirements on economies that are not even developing, they are I don't know, retrogressing, and they're still like trying to even find their feet with basics like electricity, water, and just the basics of like human need. They begin to say, well, and then you have businesses that are in these countries that are, that are trying to still like get their feet, and then you remember what we were talking about with respect to that particular company that was only able to break even because they had customers outside the country, right? So if you're staying within Nigeria, you are disadvantaged because of the hostile environment. So the big options you have are to like export your services to outside, and then now begin to now depress us again and say, well, now before you come in, you must pay this amount of money. I don't really think Nigeria should be getting involved in this kind of thing because we don't have the capacity or the means to even talk. I mean, who are the real actual major emitters of CO2 in the world. It's those people, right? So if they want to say, okay, well, some people are offshoring, they should actually, begin to. There should be this. It should be a discriminatory measure, right? So it should be discriminatory. If you say, okay, you're in the EU, but you're showing your things, okay, look for those people and then apply it on them, not like a blanket thing. Well, if wherever your company comes to you, then you must because then the people, the small companies and the small businesses that are still trying to grow, will just like have more problems, more red tape that will kill the economy.
Yeah, Toby, let me come to you. The person, the small farmer, the smallhold farmer there, perhaps, who is just growing some tubers of yam, perhaps in Benue State, and is planning that, sometime in the future they'll start exporting their tubers of yam to, to the EU. So let's say Belgium or wherever. And now you have this policy, and somehow it's insisting that, the product you're exporting to the EU must be net zero. I mean, how do you reconcile, where we are today in Nigeria, our farming practices, our system, our ecosystem in the country, Nigeria, and some of these advanced, accounting, and taxation policies, in the global north? How do you reconcile that with the realities we have on ground? Do you think these are things that bode well because I mean an argument might be that this will force people to adopt more sustainable measures in farming practice. But we know that these things are expensive. We know that it's also a form of punitive tax on some of these persons because it ends up, taking them out of business. But how do you think the small farmers now, the smallhold farmers, that are crucial parts, in ensuring that we can have stability in our farming, in the varieties available for farming? How do you think they're going to cope in such hostile environment when you start having punitive tax systems penalize their imports, or the products they export from local countries into the EU? I said, how do you think the smallhold farmers, the person that is farming yam, some hundreds of tubers or thousands of tubers of yam in Benue State and hoping to export to, let's say, Belgium, how do you think they are going to survive in such hostile and punitive systems? When you have the Western world imposing these taxes on their products, it makes it uncompetitive, and quite expensive, and it even has the possibility of eroding out of business. And like I said, how do you then straddle that thin line? Because you have one side arguing that these taxes, drive these persons out of business, but you have another line, another divide, arguing that such policies incentivize these farmers to adopt sustainable, practices in agriculture. But you and I know that, the term sustainable practices of agriculture is quite ambiguous. So how do you think, small farmers in developing countries like Nigeria have the, intention of exporting to the EU will survive or cope with these policies from the EU, for instance, in the future?
Well, personally, I don't even think that should realize a focus for, let's say, Nigerian farmers right now. And I say that because given the amount of issues currently are faced, particularly around agriculture, around food insecurity, I don't think there are farmers that are thinking, oh, how will I be able to export right now? Right? And I say that because, first of all, in Nigeria, as much as we love it or would have hoped that it is present, more even mechanized farming is not even fully practiced in Nigeria. So you only have like the largest or richest farms and people like that who have capacity and financial means. It's majorly the probably very large and very financially stable farms owned by very rich people that actually have capacity to practice mechanized farming, right? And so a vast majority of the local farmers they have not even do that. So that's why I say that first, I don't think that's what's at the forefront of many people who are farmers, right? But then, like you said, these kind of things they have their ways of discouraging the intentions of these people, like I said. Now, these are the same countries, by the way, that there was an agreement made at one of the COPs that they should, the richer countries should come around to contribute money and basically give out money to more developing countries that are dealing with the emission of fossil fuels, in order to help them battle and reduce their fossil fuel consumption. But then many countries kind of what's the word now? Reacted negatively to this. Some countries said, we don't really want to pay money. But then now you are bringing up the idea of imposing a tax on these same countries who are probably trying to export their goods. So yeah, it's if things like this, or if this particular policy passes, or if particular issue passes, then of course things have a more negative effect on the Nigerian farmers. And me, I personally have the opinion that our leaders try to find a way to exploit every opportunity. So again, this is going to be a means of exploitation. Another means of, not even a means, but another means of exploitation for the Nigerian leaders to find a way to get from local farmers, like I said.
The data management system is an enterprise software service that enables the team leads, data team manager, and other administrators to successfully manage the large amounts of data that are collected by the 113 data enumerators scattered across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory of the country. After logging into the DMS, you are met with the home page. Here the number of team leads we have, the number of submissions that have been received by the team leads in the current week, as well as the total number of local government areas that are covered are shown. Just below that, there is a chart that shows the number of enumerators that have been changed for each month of the year. Finally, at the bottom of the page, there is the price fluctuation chart that allows you to see the price changes for the food items that are covered in our data collection process. On the Team Leads page, you can find the details about the team leads that are currently employed in the company. You are also able to change some details for the team lead as well as enrolling a new LGA as well creating a profile for a new team lead. On the Form Responses page, you are able to track the responses by the enumerators. However, this is only possible for responses that have been submitted by the team leads. At the top of the page, you can track the number of team lead submissions as well as the number of expected submissions for the week. The responses can be tracked according to the data categories available. Finally, the data can be downloaded for the required category. The Response Tracker page allows you to track the submission time of the team leads while also allowing you to also view this data for the previous 5 weeks. On the Master List page, you are able to see the entirety of the data contained in the database. You can also filter by dates, and finally, you can download the selected data. Finally, on the History page, you are able to track the activities on the DMS DCF.
Hi there. Are you interested in getting weekly updates on interesting economic news, prices of commodities across the country, and many more? Subscribe to our EcoWeather weekly newsletter where we bring you updates across the country. To subscribe, open your browser and input the shortened link. After you have opened the page, input your details like your email address, first name, and last name, after which you click on the subscribe button. Now you are always on top of important updates across the country.
Thanks, Toby. Let me just go to Dorothy. Dorothy, we are just reviewing our leaderboard now. And this is the last week in November. And then, by Friday, we get into December. The question I want to ask here is, the leaderboard is showing us, same old, right? I mean, there's no significant difference in terms of what you expect, right? But we are beginning to see that, states like Imo, Rivers, and Anambra, are worsening in terms of affordability. My question this evening to you, Dorothy, is, I mean, what are you seeing when you assess the market, in terms of prices of food items. Now, this is the reason for the question. We currently have a cost of living crisis in Nigeria, where things are arbitrarily quite high. They are normally high. However, we also have paucity of funds. There's people they have limited disposable income. So in this period, where we usually have hiking prices of food items, or we usually have a disproportionate amount cost in food items compared to other months, how are you seeing households in terms of their spending for the Yuletide season? One, and how are you also seeing suppliers, adjusting their prices to reflect the season we find? Is there some form of consensus between both parties? Are suppliers maintaining old prices or increasing? Are households deciding that, irrespective of what happens, we must celebrate this festive period, or they are being more cautious in their spending? Based on your experiences over there in Lagos, what is the experience on ground, when you, as people shop around this season?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. This period, we all know that the Yule period, December mostly, the prices of things are always high. So even if the prices were high, normal, when it comes to this period, it's always skyrocketed. Now, come to talk about the East, where they don't get to farm, often like the North and other areas, they must also face challenges in some of those food items. But the common food items we have right now, it's groundnut oil, rice, which may affect almost every part of the state. Of course, it's like something that, yes, even though it will be a bit lower in the north, in the west, and other places like the east, it may still be high. But I see that people are still not going to adjust, or are not going to say we're not doing this at all. It's like a culture in Africa or Nigeria that anytime it's December period, people still need to spend. But I still see it that to some extent, there might be a bit cut down in some of the things that people do. It may not really be extreme to some points because the prices are really, really very high this period. I don't even think some companies are giving out some of the things they do this December. I heard someone was saying their company this they have to share one bag of rice like that together just so it can reach everybody. So the economy is really tough. So definitely people have to cut down their spending this December. Yes, because there is no rush spending this time around. Rush panic buying. It's not happening. It's really not happening now. The noise is very less. Yes.
Oh, wow. So there's no dirty December this December.
December may not be dirty at all.
Toby, let me just ask you before we dive into our topic for today. Are you planning on going on a splurge this Christmas, this period? I mean, are you doing anything fantastic, or you are just maintaining status quo?
I'm just maintaining my space, and I just did at all because this December I didn't do at all. It's not happening. It's not really happening. Yes, maybe for some people like our August at the top, but for us, like, we are just maintaining our lane this December.
Toby, are you also maintaining? Are you also maintaining status quo?
I don't know. I'll just say I don't know. I will hope that I can, at least do something a bit enjoyable, but then it all depends on what pocket is saying at that time.
That's an interesting one. All right, I think we just go into our highlight for today. So I think we're looking at the repositioning of Nigeria, in the evolving world of climate change, especially the politics, around climate change. And Peter, I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to give this background. You see, one of the things, when we had our last discussion, Chidima raised the point that one would have thought that when Russia went to war with Ukraine, that would have been an avenue for Nigeria, to really boost sales of natural gas, because these are things that we had strength. This would have been an opportunity for us to, really strike new deals, long-term contracts with many of these, EU countries, and just, create, because of the disruption created. But we didn't take advantage of the opportunities, that did arise from that, the ongoing war. And why I'm saying this is we are entering a new phase again, and we are having countries come up with policies. So, for instance, you have what we just discussed earlier, the carbon border tax by the EU, and now we're also having the UK coming up with that. And the whole idea is that if you look at it, summarily from a very comprehensive stand, this is a means of extracting rents or wealth, from the developing countries back to the developed countries. So it's like Toby was raising the point that the persons or the companies that might survive might be the very big companies or wealthy companies, which is the truth, because when the small farmers are unable to continue, their farmlands are bought up, by the bigger farmlands or the bigger entities or corporate entities, and that might become something that is untenable for the country, because the country can thrive where you have, this diversity, in options and all that. My concern here is Nigeria is participating in. I was chatting with someone today, when we went out to one of the local restaurants, that serves Nigerian dishes here in Dubai. And it was, I think the general feeling is that maybe Nigeria's president might be around tomorrow. I'm wondering what we are coming here to see. Buhari at the last COP in Glasgow, promised that Nigeria was going to be climate neutral by 2060. Peter, this is my question, and it's a tough one. How do you think Nigeria can reposition herself, right, in this environment, to ensure that these policies coming up will take advantage of them? You see, every country comes up with policies to ensure they can take advantage of that, they are not exploited. So how do we, in the face of these changing policies, these dynamics playing out here, by the West, how does Nigeria ensure that, she can reposition herself, and make the best of it? If you can do that for us in 3 minutes, that would be
great. This question you're asking me is a thesis question, a PhD question.
I'm asking you to worthy compatriot.
To position herself to take advantage of these policies, first thing I would say is we need to work on our foreign relations. That's, I think, a department that's really important that we need to really boost. And I was listening to a book, and basically the idea was it's a nation that is known for corruption, that is known it has a reputation for corruption, right? Most people will not even trust. You don't have it's difficult for you to even come to the table to say, let's bargain this, let's try to strike a deal. And all these bilateral deals and all that stuff. It's more difficult because your environment is very hostile. Those rampant corruption, insecurity, and all that, very hostile too. So basically, when you're coming to, if you for example, if you want to position yourself to benefit from some of these things that are going on, or okay, for example, we talked about the fact that Nigeria, is still not where it ought to be able to even be at the table talking about beating up some of these tax measures. If we were at a good position where we're not bogged down by all these things, we could actually negotiate exemption deals or even compensation deals, and all those kinds of stuff with these governments, those kinds of things. But now the thing is that we have a bad reputation already. We don't have an environment and besides, we don't even have responsible leaders that are even caring about all these things. So I don't really know what to say, because at the end of the day, you don't even have people that have the interests of the nation at heart. You have people that just are interested in, okay, now I have 4 years. How much money can I amass before my tenure is over? Or how much of my friends can I put in positions of power so that even when I leave, I'll still have people that will continue to give me my quota. So, but in an ideal situation, let's now forget about whether there's corruption or not, right? In an ideal situation, we would have, our government mean, like if you go to many of the people from other countries that attend this, they don't just come to attend, they come to lobby. They come to, talk to countries, and like strike deals, and all this stuff. That's what you expect our people. But they will come with a long convoy, many cars, and even the developed countries their presidents are coming with public transport, entering in long bus. But they wasn't coming. So the focus is not there. So and then also they have like these exemption deals will help now our own businesses to begin to export. Maybe they could say, for example, okay, we'll give you guys the way they were giving Elon Musk in the US tax breaks because it was like doing something. So something like that, at least, because the truth is that if you're talking in terms of what's the word? In terms of like societal perception, right? Africa and blacks are in the lead. So basically, if you come to say, if you do this thing, it will help the black people, and you can write it that we help Nigeria, we give them a deal that. It's kind of the in thing now, like to be on the side of the oppressed people, basically, in quotes, right? So they have a bargaining chip and say, okay, well, I mean, make a case and say, look, you're not at the place, please. Can you guys give us can we check it? Okay, and we'll give you a timeline in the next 20 years or the next 30 years or whatever it is. We'll be able to begin to meet up, and like you can do it like a sliding where over time maybe it will begin to increase until this, and then you can also make a deal, say, okay, in the meantime, you guys will begin to give some aid. Since you want us to meet up this day, okay, can we have a deal where we'll get some aid to help our farmers? You want them to do sustainable farming? Okay, can you invest in sustainable equipment for them? And all those kinds of things. That's what I would expect to do, because it will benefit us, because now we have people that are working, producing, employing people, exporting our foreign what will be improved and all that stuff. So we can actually take advantage of this situation. But I don't think it will happen.
Well, for our viewers who perhaps might be around for the COP28 events, Fox Intelligence Limited is working along with Alpha Scores Training Limited. It's a UK-based company, and NICRA. And of course, we are having a side event along with the NCCC at the Nigerian Pavilion, Blue Zone, here in Dubai. You can take advantage of that. It's going to be on the 5th of December by 11 a.m. And basically what we are looking at is mainstreaming interoperability and circularity for sustainable ecosystems. I think, Peter, one of the germane things that this particular side event wants to promote is the idea of having this ecosystem, where in the country we're able to identify activities that generate potential carbon offsets and activities that generate potential carbon footprints, and then see how you can, take these carbon offsets generated from one particular activity and feed them into those particular, activities that that generate significant offset, and then try to create a stabilization mechanism where you have some kind of pricing, systems that are internal, within the country. And that's one of the things we're trying to argue. And the reason for this is that if you go on Vera, for instance, you discover that the majority of our carbon credits are operationalized by companies from India. So you have foreign entities coming into our country, to help us operationalize, manage, and dispense of carbon credits, generated within the country. And so one of the things we're looking at is that rather than having these things, taken out, like leakages out of the country, there could be some form of circular economy created, ensuring that these carbon credits can feed into the system, and so we have like an in-house, like an in-house wealth generated, by this, circularity system. And that's one of the things we are. I think the points you raised are quite germane. One will be looking forward to more, responsible talks, from the government, serious discussions with regards to how, government wants to demonstrate to the world that Nigeria, is ready for business. So I don't think it's all about going there and saying we are open for business. The policies in the country will show that we're open for business. The seriousness of the government entities, concerned with climate change and all of these things will show that indeed Nigeria is open for business. In fact, the ability for the government to start enacting simple things like a data system that helps to capture these activities, because the first thing is that we even need to have an idea, a database that tells us, oh, this is the current generation our entities generating carbon credits, and these are the entities generating emissions, and quantifying all of this, and then having that roundtable discussion to say, okay, how do we create that system to manage the circularity of this. But until we start seeing seriousness, it will look like that minister that wants to train 3 million tech talents and we don't have electricity in the country. You want to develop AI talent, but we don't have the companies that can even mop up those people and give them real life experiences. We just be putting the cart before the horse, and at the end of the day, we don't have any benefit. I think we can hope that from this current COP event that we live with more tangible results. It's not just going out there to shout Vuvuzela and all of that, but coming back.
Going for 5G. Many of them are going for 5G.
We have to come back with actionable points. When we come back, these are the things we want to action, and let's see that there's a change. Okay, I think our time is fast spent. We just ask, the question is simple here. In 2 weeks' time, COP is going to be over. But in 1 week, from the preliminary discussions that would have been held, Peter, what do you think you are looking forward to, from the Nigerian delegation here, at COP28? In 1 minute.
What will be the outcome of the whole thing?
Yeah, what are you expecting should be some of the outputs that are coming out from what they are saying? You'll be looking for some form of traction from them, and they'll be having
So the first thing is, okay, the delegation, how aware are they even of sustainability? At least at the basic level, they should know, they should have a good understanding of this sustainability and the international policies around them. Many of them are not even educated about those things. They don't know what's going on. Some of them probably don't even know about this Europe tax you're talking about. They don't even know. So at least basically at the basic level, they should be informed. Many of them, all those talks, what they won't attend. That's the truth. They wouldn't go there. I'm telling you the reality. They will just.
Are you saying that we might see them at the Dubai Mall or some of these shopping centers?
Yeah, so the beach, if there's a beach in Dubai, all those long hotels, we go and stay there and whatever. So, but what I'm expecting, at least those that are serious will get more education, establish contacts with people. See, look, Elon Musk has made a lot of money from this thing. That's the truth. So we should have, if we have a responsible government, they can also begin to establish contracts and negotiate deals and all that. That will also help the country. So that's what I would expect.
Dorothy, in 1 minute, are you expecting anything positive from the Nigerian delegation at COP28?
Well, let's just see what they're going to bring back for us. I don't think so. Not for now. They always disappoint us, so let's just hope that this time around will be different.
You need to remember that most people in Nigeria don't even think that there's anything like COP28 going on. So it's a secret thing, a secret way of going out, come back, take your money. That's all. So
apply for travel allowance, extra food and
that's it.
Toby, can anything good come out of this delegation?
No, I'm not God, so I cannot say. But one will just hope that some way, somehow, we can bring back positive news or positive reports. Personally, I also asked some research on this issue. I'm particularly interested because this country, the other country are the ones who are demanding that well usage and you move to more renewable sources of energy. So I'm looking forward to what to be the outcome plus and that next month. It's supposed to actualize by 2024. So let's see if there are major discussions about it in this COP20 and hopefully Nigeria can.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the most we can take for this evening. Until we meet again next week, please remember to follow us on our social media platform. Again, we are on Facebook and LinkedIn, Oaks Intelligence Limited, and of course, we are on Twitter and Instagram at Oaks Intelligence. Until we meet again next evening, do have a splendid evening. Bye.